Good evening, and welcome to FMN Sports Tonight. I'm your host Dan Anderson. Joining me this evening is my colleague Jerry McGillicuddy. Tonight we will be spending a lot of time discussing this weekend's football game between the Clemson Tigers and the South Carolina Gamecocks. This should be a good matchup, and we are all looking forward to this one. Let's get right to it. Jerry, how do you see this one turning out?
Dan, I think South Carolina is going to win this game by at least 30 points.
Really?
Hell no. I'm just messing with you. Clemson is going to win. Obviously.
Okay, for a second there I thought you must have lost your mind.
I know. That would be crazy, right? I'd have to be Fruit Loops to believe for a second that South Carolina could actually beat Clemson this year. What nonsense.
Yeah. You'd almost have to be delusional to think the Gamecocks had any hope of winning that game. I mean, C.J. Spiller will probably end up with about 500 all-purpose yards, and Stephen Garcia will get sacked like 6 or 7 times. Clemson has the kind of defensive pressure that will turn Garcia into a fumble machine.
Right. And Carolina doesn't really have much of a running game to speak of, so Garcia is going to spend a lot of time on his behind and the cock and fire offense is going to be moving backwards quite a bit.
That's true.
And it won't be long before the cock head coach loses his patience and starts throwing things. The offensive line has been a real weakness, and the cock blockers will be severely outmanned by the talent and depth of the Tiger defensive line. The cock receivers have been catching balls steadily all year, and Wesley Saunders is a good cock tight end, but Carolina's weakness up front will mean that the Cocks have trouble penetrating the end zone.
I agree, Jerry. But one real strength for South Carolina has been their defense, and it all starts with linebacker Eric Norwood.
Right, Dan. Eric Norwood is the one defensive cock player that you have to account for at all times. He is the best cock tackler in school history.
That's right, Jerry, but you can't tackle what you can't catch, and there aren't many players in the country that can catch Jacoby Ford or C.J. Spiller. Those two players have the most combined all-purpose yards in NCAA history, and Kyle Parker has done a nice job of getting the ball to his playmakers this year. That's not about to change this weekend.
No, it's not. I have a feeling Steve Spurrier and the Gamecocks will come out of this game demoralized, and I don't know if there are going to be many Bulls out there who are going to want a team that has lost 5 of its last 6 games, including the game with their rival.
I agree. It would not surprise me to see South Carolina sitting at home this winter watching everyone else play. All right. Wrapping up, do you have a score prediction for the game, Jerry?
I do. I'm going to say Clemson 38, South Carolina 16. Spiller will have at least 300 all-purpose yards, mark my words. What about you? You got a prediction?
Yes. I'm going with Clemson 45, South Carolina 9. History will repeat itself, and the Cocks will be beaten yet again. Well, that's it for our show. Catch us again Saturday evening as we review all of Clemson's big plays from the game, and we'll also take an in-depth look at the injury list for South Carolina coming out of that game. Until then, for Jerry McGillicuddy, I'm Dan Anderson signing off. Good night.